All right, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time of the day you're going to be listening to this video. I want to welcome you to Learning Objective 4. And in this learning objective, we will be applying the ABC, that's activity-based costing, to service company. And we will do this by going through an example. All right, so the first steps of the ABC we discussed in the video 2 is the same with the service company. Uh, we still need to identify our activities. We still need to identify our activity cost pools. We still need to calculate our cost drivers, calculate our rates. So it's the same for service companies just as it is for manufacturers. Now, also the labeling of activity as value added and non-value added, and then eliminating non-value added activities as much as possible is also the same in service as it is with what the manufacturing. The important thing to note is that ABC costing in service industries can be a little bit more difficult because there's a large portion of overhead costs which are company-wide costs that cannot be easily traced to specific services performed by the company. Other than that, every other thing is the same. I just wanted us to do an example so that we can see what it's like to apply the activity-based costing to the service industry. All right, so we'll do this example. It's Do It 4.4. Ready Ride is a trucking company. It provides local short hauls and long haul services. It has developed the following three cost pools. It says they have the loading and unloading, and then we have travel, and then we have logistics. The cost drivers for loading and unloading is going to be the number of pieces loaded and unloaded. We have for travel, we have the miles driven, and then for logistic, we have the hours, the number of hours. Now, for loading and unloading, we have estimated overhead to be 90,000, and then our estimated use of cost drivers per activity, we said is going to be 90. Okay. For the miles driven or for travel, we have an estimated overhead for 450, but we say per estimated use of cost driver per activity, we're saying is what, 600. And then for logistics, we're saying that it is going to be 75,000 overhead. That is already estimated. And estimated use of that cost driver is, we're saying it is 3,000. So again, we already had the first, the second steps for activity-based costing figured out. We now need to find the overhead rate and then apply it to the company. Now the question here is to compute the activity-based overhead rate for each pool. That's one. That's the third step. And then the last step here is going to determine the overhead assigned to job XZ3275, which has 150 pieces, requires 200 miles of driving and 0.75 hours of logistics. Okay. All right, so the activity-based overhead rates would be, for loading, we're going to divide our estimated overhead by the estimated use of cost driver for us to get our activity-based overhead rate. Now, our estimated overhead for loading and unloading is 90 divided by 90, which is our estimated use of cost driver per activity, which gives us $1 per piece. For the travel, we have it to be 450 for estimated overhead and then 600 for cost driver per activity. That gives us 0.75 per miles. And then for logistics, we have 75,000. We divide it by 3,000 and that gives us $25 per hour for logistics. Now we're told that for XYZ, we use 150. So we're going to multiply the 150 by the $1 plus 200 for travel times this 0.75 plus our 0.75 times $25, which gives us a total overhead applied to this job of $318.75. One thing we would have observed or know is that the ABC, is not a replacement for the process costing or the job order costing. I think the issue here is, the calculation of the overhead. We want it to be as accurate as possible. And that's why we spread out the overhead through the different, activity pools, so that it's more accurate and more correct when it comes to giving your product, a cost. All right, so that brings us to the end of our slide. I hope to see you in chapter 5.